Just have a seat right there. If you would, please, tell us your name.
My name is Nelson Delgado.
And where do you live, Mr. Delgado?
Fayetteville, Arkansas, sir.
Mr. Delgado, your present occupation, sir?
I'm a chef.
In 1959, you were in the Marine Corps, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And stationed at the Marine Air Control Squadron number 9 in Santa Ana, California, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in the same unit with you was Lee Harvey Oswald?
Yes, sir.
You were a squad leader?
Yes, I was.
Did you get to know Mr. Oswald fairly well?
Yes, I did.
Could you briefly describe Mr. Oswald for the jury?
A very quiet, intellectual young man, a loner. He liked to listen to classical music and played chess as his main game.
Oswald told you, did he not, that he was an atheist?
Yes, he did.
And you also discussed with him Karl Marx, and you discerned that he was a follower of Karl Marx, is that
Yes.
correct? Did you ever see Marx's book, Das Kapital, in Oswald's possession?
Yes, I did.
He also got a Russian paper that he subscribed to?
Yes, he did.
Because of his Marxist leanings, did his fellow Marines call him communist names?
Yes, they did.
Like what?
Corporal Dejanovic used to call him Oswaldovich.
Did Oswald speak Russian?
Yes, he
Did
did.
he try to teach you Russian?
He did.
Mr. Delgado, as I understand it, you had many conversations with Oswald about the American system of government.
We did.
What did he say to you in that?
Our present
Connection.
form of government didn't have anything to offer to the common people, and he resented our way of life, you know.
Was he a fervent supporter of Fidel Castro?
He was a reverent supporter of Fidel Castro. He was 130% behind him, and I was at the same time as well.
Did he say anything about going to Cuba and helping Castro in the revolution?
Yes, he did.
What discussion did you have with him in this regard?
How he could go about winning the friendship of the Cuban people and helping Castro in his struggle.
And did you learn thereafter that he in fact did go to the Cuban
He made
consulate
contact with
in
the
Los
Cuban.
Angeles?
Yes, he did.
Mr. Delgado, it's true, is it not, that Oswald discussed extradition treaties with you in the context of if someone committed a crime in the United States, what countries he could go to where they could not extradite him back?
Yes, sir, he did.
Mr. Delgado, I believe you've testified before the Warren Commission that on the rifle range, Oswald was kind of a joke, a pretty big joke.
Yes, he was.
You're aware that at the time Oswald was doing poorly on the range, he was about to be released from the Marines. Is that correct?
Yes, he was.
Are you aware that in 1956, when Oswald first joined the Marines and was going through basic training, he fired a .212 on the rifle range with an M1 rifle, which made him a sharpshooter at that time? You're aware of that?
Yes.
Given the fact that Oswald was about to get out of the Marines when he was in your unit, and the fact that he showed no interest in firing on the range, you don't attribute his poor showing on the range to his being a poor shot?
No.
Could have done better, you felt, if he tried.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Delgado. No further questions.
Dr. Beck? Yes, sir. If you would, please. You, Dr. Wecht?
Yes, Your Honor.
Cyril, I respect you. You know, you've got a pretty good background, don't you?
Spent a lot of years in school.
But you're known as the darling of the conspiracy buffs in this country, aren't you?
Please, that's
Oh, wait a minute. You asked him to give a summation to the jury, and I can't ask him if he's a darling?
Please, I asked him for his testimony, Your Honor, and I think that that's demeaning of a witness of this character.
Ask him if he's a member of a particular committee. Sustain as to the darling
Doctor, even though from a professional perspective you don't think too much of the autopsy surgeons, you do agree 100% with their findings, to wit, that the bullet wound to the president's upper right back and the bullet wound to the back of the president's head were both entry wounds, not exit wounds, and hence the bullets were fired from the rear. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's go on to the next question now. No final summation. I'm going to be doing that. Was it just accidental on their part that they came to the same identical conclusion you came to?
That's not the same identical conclusion.
Okay.
That's just a part.
Dr. Wecht, in a 1974 article for Forensic Science, page 128, did you say this? So far as the available medical evidence shows, all shots were fired from the rear. No support can be found for theories which postulate gunmen to the front or right front of the presidential car. Did you write those words, Doctor?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Available medical evidence. That's the phrase,
Let's
Mr.
go on to other
Bugliosi.
questions.
Available medical evidence.
He'll have some opportunity on redirect. Just answer my questions. As far as the brain, Doctor, You're well aware, are you not, that after interviewing or taking depositions from over 30 people close to the matter, the House Select Committee that you were on, the investigators concluded that the president's brother, Robert Kennedy, who had told people he feared his brother's brain might conceivably be placed on public display years from now, they came to the conclusion that it was he who was responsible for the disappearance of his brother's brain. You're aware of that? That's the conclusion of the House Select Committee investigators.
They suggested it.
Okay. A head snap to the rear, Doctor. I believe you testified that that bullet could have come from the front. Is that correct?
That's right.
Well, Doctor, since you agree that there's no medical evidence of a bullet striking President Kennedy from the front, or right front, no medical evidence, to what do you attribute the head snap to the rear, then? There's no
I said, as you asked me before, Mr. Bugliosi, that the medical evidence available, I'll repeat for you, sir, that the left side of the brain was never opened, was never sectioned. So we don't know what was there. The great majority of the metal fragments inside the brain were never tested. Indeed, the large piece that was embedded in the bone in the back and a fairly substantial piece embedded toward the frontal part of the skull, those two were not removed and were not tested. So we don't know a lot of things about what happened because of the incompleteness of the examination and the unavailability of the evidence.
Do you believe that the two bullets that struck President Kennedy from behind were not fired from the southeasternmost window of the 6th floor, but from a lower floor?
My own analysis, as set forth in an article published, I think, in 1974, indicated that if the shots came from behind, and I believe that they had, that at least one of the shots would have been more likely to have come from around the 2nd floor of the Texas School Book Depository building and more down toward the other end of the building. That was my own analysis.
All right. Taking a look at this chart right here, Cyril. If the bullet was coming on a downward path as it entered the presidential limousine, as you say it was, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And it missed Governor Connolly, is that correct?
Yes.
Why didn't it hit the driver of the car or do any damage to the car, Doctor?
A couple of things. The straight line in that open limousine could have taken it out over the left side of the car.
No.
And as the line shows, it would have and could have indeed missed the driver. Secondly,
It's coming on a downward path, Cyril. Doctor, I'm sorry. It's coming on a downward path into the presidential limousine, goes through the president's body, misses Governor Connolly, and magically also misses the driver and doesn't do any damage to the presidential limousine.
Wait just a moment. I did not say that that bullet missed all of these people completely or that it missed the car.
Well, whom did it
You
miss?
know that there were fragments found in the car, Mr. Bugliosi.
You said the bullet passed on a straight line through the president's body.
Absolutely.
Passed through soft tissue.
That's
so
right.
So that bullet came out pristine.
That's right.
The bullet fragments found in the front seat of this car, Doctor, were bullet fragments, very, very damaged, very, very small. What happened to that pristine bullet when it came through President Kennedy's body?
What
Who did it hit?
What happened to the third bullet under the Warren Commission theory, Mr. Bugliosi? Where is it? You're asking me to be responsible for the bullets in this case?
I want to know what happened to your bullet,
I'm
Doctor.
asking you what happened to the third bullet of the Warren Commission report.
Yeah, you don't want to answer my question.
Doctor.
No,
please.
I don't have. I can't tell you where all the bullets
Well,
are.
Doctor,
I didn't conduct the investigation.
Yeah, the prosecution has its own magic bullet, okay? You've suggested, Doctor, that maybe the bullets that entered from the right front, if there were any bullets from the right front, were synchronized, right? That at the very moment that the bullet was fired from the rear, someone else may have fired from the side or the right front. Is that correct?
Yes. A bullet, sir.
Yeah.
A
Now,
bullet.
how would the synchronization have taken place, Doctor?
Oh, that's very simple.
Was someone looking at a stopwatch with a rifle and also looking through the crosshairs?
You can do it according to a point in time. You can do it from a prearranged signal. You can do it with a stopwatch.
So they would be looking at the stopwatch and holding the rifle and at the same time looking through their sights. Is that correct?
In whatever way it's done, I haven't done much shooting like that
Have
recently.
you thought about it, Doctor?
Yes, I've thought about it.
Because...
Not a problem.
Okay,
not a problem with the right kind of watch
Okay.
and shooting with a good weapon, not a problem.
Because it would have had to have hit within 1/18th of a second. Is that correct?
Yes.
You agree with that?
I agree, well, not
That's-
necessarily with 1/18th, but I agree within a fraction, and a small fraction of a second. Yes, I do agree.
Extremely, extremely remote. Isn't that right, Doctor?
I would say that it is a remote possibility, but a physical possibility to be considered.
Okay.